Alright, welcome to the best Retribution Paladin 3.3.5a Wrath of the Lich King guide. This is the best guide that I can make for you. I have no idea how I could have made this guide any better, and if I can make it better, I really hope I will before I release this out to you guys. Anyways, I have organized this guide into a whole bunch of different breakpoints. They should be available in the description below. Remember to smash that like button, drop a comment letting me know if you like the video, what you think, and make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you can get more guides like this, and you can help me spread the information that needs to be spread and help people get better at the game, so you don't have people wasting your time in the raids that you try to raid, and you don't have people just overall being ignorant when they can easily learn the knowledge in friendly and nice guides like this. So thank you, smash that like button, and let's proceed with the video. Okay, so now that the introduction is out of the way, I would like to point out the way I'm structuring these class videos. If you have not watched any of my class videos before, starting this day, any of the previous days, so it's April 6th of 2022, any forward-going videos that I make that are class videos, if you have not watched any of those, make sure that you know that you can skip ahead in the video, and I'll tell you how to skip ahead and save you a lot of time. So I'm going to organize these videos based on the fundamentals of the video, which is going to be the introduction of the covering the fundamentals, covering the advanced parts of the video. Then it's going to be the ICC dungeon farming, Trial of the Champion, Trinket farming, the offset gear pieces, the tier set gear pieces, and then the ICC Trash BOEs that you can buy. All seven of these points are all going to be the fundamentals of every character that you play on. Doesn't matter what character you're playing on, you're going to need these fundamentals before you get into your class specific. So proceed and watch this before watch this part of the video if you are brand new to my videos and you haven't watched these, or you don't have the full basic grasp of the fundamentals. However, if you have already watched one of my class guides, you know where I'm going with this. Skip forward to the class specific stuff, which is going to be in the advanced part of the video, which will include the talents, the best in slot gear, the rotation and play style of the class, the progression, and I'm going to have a special introduction to every one of these videos. So you probably already heard a different introduction at the beginning of this video versus the introduction at the other video that you already watched. Thank you, and proceed with the video. Okay, so first off, we're going to have to cover what we're going to be doing and how we're going to be doing it, right? Especially because I want to make sure all this content adheres to new players along with the best players. So we're going to be covering the fundamentals of the game on this patch 3.3.5a. It's going to be Icecrown Citadel dungeons that we're going to cover first. Farming those dungeons, and also farming random dungeon finder heroic. Random dungeon finder heroic is going to be your dungeon finder. So you have your heroics where you have your reward where you get daily frost emblems. Everyone's going to be doing this. Even the best in slot players are going to want their frost emblems. You got regular normal dungeons, gives you daily emblem of triumph, and then you can also queue up for specific dungeons. So if you want to do a specific dungeon, you can queue up anywhere in the world when you have dungeon finder. So we're going to cover the Icecrown Citadel dungeons, the heroic dungeons. Then we're going to move on to Trial of the Crusader trinket farming. Then we're going to move on to offset gear pieces, so gear that is not part of your tier 9 set. Then we're going to move on to the tier 9 set, well, tier sets, so tier 9, tier 10. And then after we get through the tier sets, we're going to do Icecrown Citadel Trash Bind-On-Equips, items that you can use that are cheap and effective use based on your class. And then we also have reputation rings for the Icecrown Citadel Ashen Verdict. So these are going to be Ashen Verdict here. All these great rings, this is what I'm using right now. So as you can see, I'm using the same advice I'm giving you. You have my tier 9 sets right here. I have some best in slot gear. I have my tier like my Ashen Verdict ring. So all of this is going to be coming from what I preach. So I'm doing what I preach. You're going to be following the same advice to get to the point where you can get best in slot. I'm not quite there. I'm not quite there yet on this character, but I am best in slot on. I've been best in slot on over 50 different characters. So that's what we're going to be getting into. Let's get into it. Okay, so we're going to be covering the advanced parts of each class and every guide. So the fundamentals apply to every class, every character. So if you have not gotten the fundamentals down, you may think you have gotten it down, so I recommend giving it a watch. But if you watch one of my previous videos, you'll see that it's kind of the same footage being used to showcase the fundamentals. The fundamentals are basic core concept that are needed. So if you've got that down, you understand the best previous, like, the best raids and whatnot. Once you understand that, we're going to move on to the advanced content. That's going to be class specific. It's going to be what to use for your specific spec, like what talents to use, what glyphs to use, and then we're going to use like what's your best in slot gear, what's the best combination of gear. And there's like some liberty, sorry, there's some liberty and freedom to choose what you want to use as your best in slot. Although the best in slot lists are generally the same because they utilize the highest item levels possible. Although the difference between being best in slot with 6.58 and being 20 gear score off, or like two pieces that are like slightly higher or lower item level, but they still provide the same amount of stats. Essentially, it doesn't matter in the end. If you don't utilize Shadowmourne, that doesn't matter. You don't need to have Shadowmourne to be able to enjoy yourself, and not everyone's gonna want to have to grind that out. So technical best in slot versus like a regular best in slot is what's going to be covered. So we're going to do that. And then at the end, we're also going to have rotation, what skills to use, how to use them, when to use them, what your class is designed for, the specifications on how you're going to use your class. And yeah, so let's get right into it. Skip ahead if you're on these advanced points because it's going to be past the fundamentals, right? So you're going to want to skip ahead in the video past the ICC Bind-On-Equips and Rep Ring, which should be at the furthest point in the video. And then after you get past that, you're going to get to the advanced points. Okay, here we are at Icecrown Citadel. You can see right here, it's a giant raid. Inside here, this big old circle will lead you to Icecrown Citadel. If you're going to go do the dungeons, you're going to fly up to the right side. You're not going to go to the bottom opening because there's no opening. You're going to go to the top opening where there's a skull above it. There's an opening. You're going to fly in here. Don't have to worry about being attacked by allies or horde because it's a sanctuary area. And this will lead you to the Frozen Throne special dungeons, which is the Forge of Souls, the Halls of Reflection, and the Pit of Sauron. The Forge of Souls is the initial one, the Halls of Sauron is the second one, and Halls of Reflection is the third one. I think I said Halls of Sauron instead of Pit of Sauron. But yes, so Halls of Reflection will take significantly more difficulty. However, if you do all of these dungeons on normal, so when you go up here and you select your dungeon difficulty, make sure you select normal instead of heroic. On a more populated server, this entire area is going to be consistently filled up with players, and you will be able to easily just like type in chat looking for more Foz Paz Horror 5-man, right? Something like that. So you just simply do that, and then I'll show you inside. But in the dungeons, these will give you a bunch of decent good gear. So Forge of Souls right here. This is all the gear that you can get on normal mode. This is all the gear you can get on heroic mode. I'll be hovering it. The gear on normal mode for the last boss. Okay, on heroic. So essentially, I'm not gonna show all the gear, but I'm gonna show you what the dungeons look like. You go inside. Sylvanas is in here. You have some mobs. and then you go and do this boss. The first two bosses. The two bosses in Forge of Souls give you 2 emblems of triumph and some gear. There is 3 bosses in Pit of Sauron that give you 3 emblems of triumph and good gear, and then Halls of Reflection also have 3 bosses. So farming Pit of Sauron and Halls of Reflection is more um, more efficient if you have a faster group that can clear them quicker for emblem farming. You can also run your daily random dungeon finder heroic. If you haven't done your normal random dungeon, you can do like a quick speed run group. You would queue up for this, get your 2 emblems of triumph by like blasting through the normal mode, and then you would go back and do your heroics for more emblems of triumph. If you're going to do RDF heroic, you're going to want to skip the long dungeons. Long dungeons would include something like let me scroll down. Culling of Stratholme is honestly the worst one. The Oculus is the second worst, and Violet Hold is on par with being the worst as Stratholme. So these 3 dungeons are ones you do not want to get. If you do get them, a tip is you go to raid. You go to raid info. When you click on this, it'll show up with a whole bunch of raid lockouts, dungeon lockouts, and you can just click on them and extend the raid ID to extend how long the ID on your dungeon is going to be. This will make it where you can't get that dungeon in random dungeon finder heroic again. So that's how you do that, and I'll show you more dungeon in a minute. Okay, so here we are at the Trial of the Crusade. The Argent Tournament Grounds is what this area is called. But we are not doing the raid. We're going to be doing the dungeon for the trinkets, but I'll show you the gear. So when we're coming to this area, the raid is going to be over here. You can come here and do dailies as well, but that's not part of the video. The raid is right here. This is where you'll find Trial of the Crusader, 10-man and 25-man. And then over here is where you'll find Trial of the Champion Dungeon, 5-man. Now the gear in here is quite a bit weaker than the Forge of Souls, Pit of Sauron, and Halls of Reflection as previously shown. But the trinkets are pretty much best in slot for pre-raid gearing, right? Anything you can get from dungeons, these trinkets are best in slot for that. So, Abyssal Rune gives you 84 haste as a spellcaster, plus every 45 seconds you get a 10-second buff of 590 spell power. When you use this in tandem with Sundial, that I'll be showing in a little bit. So you use this trinket and the other trinket, you proc both of them together, you get like 12,000, or not 12,000, 1,200 spell power, and you use all your like active cooldowns, and you just burst the boss as much as you can in those 10 seconds. It gives you a massive stat boost, and you do a ton of damage. And then even when you don't have the stats active, when the proc happens, it procs consistently at a 2 out of 9 ratio. So 2 out of 9 being almost 33%, it's like 22% of the time. So it has a high uptime compared to the other trinkets. Banner of Victory is also what we're looking at here. Banner of Victory is where you get your armor pen and attack power trinket. This is a really good trinket for warriors. For red paladins and in here it's not as good. However, it does give 1,000 attack power every 45 seconds. It gives 10 attack power, and that combined with your Avenging Wrath can do a ton of damage. Abyssal Rune can drop from both bosses. Banner of Victory can only drop from the Argent Confessors. So Banner of Victory farmers, you're gonna have a rougher time finding this. And then we have two healer trinkets. We have the 84 intellect and restoring mana trinket. This is a really nice trinket for healers. And then we have the Black Heart. This is actually best in slot for Deathbringer Sarfang. You will not find any other trinket, not even heroic Petrified Twilight Scale, is better than the Black Heart for the Sarfang fight, because it gives you a 7,000 armor proc for 10 seconds. You're only going to be tanking Sarfang for 20 seconds every 40 seconds. So every time this comes off a cooldown, you'll have it available for Sarfang, either on the front end or the back end of the tanking when you're tanking him. And overall, this is just a really amazing trinket when you're fighting Sarfang. So this trinket will go a long way, and then even when you think you don't need it, you still can use it and make good viable use out of it. So those are the 4 trinkets from Trial of the Crusader. You will definitely need this. Okay, here we are looking at offset pieces. Pieces of gear that you are not going to be using, or you are going to be using, depending on if you can fit them into your build without using the set pieces. For most classes, you're going to want to use 4 tier 9 set pieces or tier 10 pieces, and so you can't utilize all these items to the maximum efficiency. Some classes will only want to use 2 tier 9 because the 4 set bonus is not very good. So the offset pieces will include shoulder plates like tank, damage. These are higher level, item level, than the 232 item level, so they give you a little bit more stats, but they cost your tier set bonus. You can upgrade your tier set bonus to get as many stats or more stats than these items as well, so you do need to factor that. There are a few trinkets here that a lot of people love to buy. So first off, here's the healer trinket. It's 128 intellect and 600 spell power for 1 out of 6 uptime. It's a solid uptime. It's not bad at all. This is a great trinket. It's really good for Holy Paladins. It goes a very long way. But this is not a good trinket for DPSers, so casters. The hit trinkets right here, you're going to be noticing these. Every single player is going to have these. They're always the highest gear score, best item level. They will buff up and inflate your stats. Obviously, it's not going to be utilized well. You're going to have 128 hit rating. So you're going to be at like 15% hit rating when you have 2 of these, right? And you do not want to use these. These are the worst trinkets in the game. If you see somebody using these, you know they don't know their stuff. You know they're not a well-skilled player, and they're not well-versed in playing the game, because your trinkets you want to have as proc trinkets. You don't want to have them as active trinkets, unless the active is on a very low cooldown, because the procs are always on a low cooldown in Wrath of the Lich King. The Glyph of Indomitability gives 1800 armor and a bunch of dodge rating. The dodge rating active is terrible, but the 1800 armor is a massive armor boost. Very good trinket. It'll last a while, sorry for that. So do not utilize these. When you're looking at these trinkets and you're like, oh, I need another trinket. I just did my Trial of the Crusader, or Trial of the Champion trinket farming, and I got my first trinket. I don't know what to do to get my second trinket. And you're looking at these Frost Emblem trinkets, right? So you'll see the Skeleton Key. You'll see the hit rating trinket as well. This is a terrible trinket as well. You don't want to use this. And then you're gonna find where's the other Hakari trinket? I think right here, Herkumi War Token. This is not the best purchase of your Frost Emblems. It is a great trinket, but stuff like this, like you should not be buying these, because you should be prioritizing your tier 10 set. You can buy this last if you haven't gotten any luck. You want to downgrade quote unquote, downgrade your emblems. So you can buy here, buy a bunch of Conquest emblems, buy a bunch of these Valor emblems right here. Go to the next one. You're going to buy a bunch of these Heroism emblems. And then once you're at Heroism, it allows you to purchase these trinkets. These are the pre-raid best in slot trinkets. Mirror of Truth is a trinket that gives you 84 critical hit and 1000 attack power for 10 seconds every 45 seconds. That's 2/9 uptime. Two times out of 9 times, so 2 seconds out of 9 seconds, you're going to be doing this damage, right? It's going to be up almost all the time. It's going to be doing tons of damage. It's going to be a great proc. Sorry. And this trinket combined with Banner of Victory is a great trinket. Same thing for casters. Sundial of the Exiled is a great trinket. 84 crit, and you get 590 spell power. Abyssal Rune, 590 spell power. Same thing, but 84 haste. 1 second. Sorry, I really tried not to cough. So Sundial and Abyssal Rune combined together are the two pre-raid best in slot trinkets before you get into raiding. Mirror of Truth and Banner of Victory are the two pre-raid best in slot trinkets before you get into raiding as well. Even for Ret Paladins who hate Armor Pen, they will be using these until maybe he gets like a Pyrite Infuser. But these are the best you can get before raiding. For healers and tanks, it's not as simple. The egg is actually pretty decent, but it's really not as great. And then you got the other tank trinket, which is not too good. But you got the Emblem of Triumph trinket that's also really good. Damn it. Sorry, I'm recording this while sick. So yeah, you got this tank trinket and the Black Heart, which is you're going to be your pre-raid best in slot for tanks. And healers, you're going to use the not Market Supremacy. You're going to use Talisman and the Trial of the Crusader trinket over here from the last boss, Tears of the Vanquished. Both of these will give you over 200 intellect, a bunch of healing, spell power active anytime you're weaker, or you need to do a bunch of big heals. And overall, it'll be a great combination. So those are your pre-raid best in slot trinkets. Okay, so now we're going to move on to tier sets. Landgrams, Leather, and Lynx is going to be the first one. Then we're going to go to cloth classes. So it's going to be Leather and Mail first, then Cloth, and then Plate. So if you're Plate, you can skip ahead 10 seconds, 15 seconds, and then Cloth, same thing. But here you'll find all the tier set bonus, so these are all the offset pieces for leather and whatnot, right? So you got these, this is all the offset gear for leather and mail, but you have your tier sets. Now obviously I'm a paladin, I do not have leather and mail tier set, I have plate tier set, so I'm not able to see it. If you're a druid, hunter, rogue, or druid, hunter, rogue, or shaman, you'll have your tier sets over here. It's for healing, resto, whatever. So that's where you find your tier sets in Delaran. You do not have to go inside Icecrown Citadel. You do not have to go over to Trial of the Crusader. You do need to go inside Trial of the Crusader or over to the tournament grounds when you're doing the upgrades with the trophies. So here where the Threads of Fate, I kind of overshot it a little. This is where you'll find your tier sets. This guy right here sells them. Both of these guys sell your tier sets. Is this the same guy? No comment. And then you got like this other stuff in these shops, but this is where you'll find your tier sets. Talk to this guy, he'll give you your tier sets, mages, warlocks, priests. Any cloth class is going to use that. I think those three are the only cloth classes in the game. So then we'll move on to the plate section. This is where paladins, death knights, and Death Knights, and Warriors will find their tier sets. Right here, Leodrin, this is the tier 9 set. Talk to this guy as well. His name is Horus. You go here, Frost Emblem set right here. You have a whole bunch of, so for most classes, it's DPS, or like it's DPS and tank. Paladins have a whole lot extra because they have a healer set as well. And then you have upgrades, so you have the marks inside Icecrown Citadel, you upgrade to 264 and then 277, but this is where you find your tier sets. For most classes, you are going to want to use a 4-set bonus. I believe I have my 4-set right here. I have pants, chest, shoulders, and helmet. You can do this for tier 9 as well. So I'm going to show you right here, set collections, tier 9 sets for Retri Paladins. What the set bonus does is it gives me 5% increased critical hit chance on my judgments, and the 2 set bonus, when I get 2 pieces together, it gives me the Righteous Vengeance talent is now able to do critical hits when it does damage, right? And then you can also upgrade these. So let's query the server to show everything. So you get these are the base ones. These are really cheap, 50 Emblems of Triumph, 30 Emblems of Triumph. You can get these tier sets for your tank set or your DPS set. So once you're done farming our random dungeon heroic for normals, you can still help your guild even if you're like 5.5k, 6k gear score, because you still need to set up your second spec with dual spec. So you get your dual spec, So I have tank and I have DPS. So if you're able to become a tank, your raid doesn't need to fall apart right then and there, because you don't have a second spec. If you're missing a Boomkin, but you're playing Feral Cat as a Druid, being able to go Boomkin, and even if you're a little bit weaker, it doesn't matter because you're providing all the buffs that you need to provide for your raid. You are enhancing yourself by including your off spec within these tier sets, and these are where you start. Okay, this is where you start with every class. Then you get trophies in Trial of the Crusader. You upgrade to 245. If you do heroic Trial of the Grand Crusader, it's not heroic, it's Trial of the Grand Crusader, but that's the heroic version, right? You can upgrade even further to 258. Now this is Icecrown Citadel 25-man level gear. The 25-man gear tier sets with the mark upgrade is only 6 item level higher. So this set right here is really good. So I would suggest if you're getting your tier 9 set, you should use your tier 9 set for quite a while. You're going to use your tier 9 set, then you're going to go and you're usually going to do this where you have 2 tier 9 and you have 2 tier 10. Like so for warriors, you would do 3% chance to get the 16% attack power when you're hitting the boss like 50 times, like Goku Gaga Boda 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 Boda. It's fucking like that procs a lot and it lasts 10 seconds, so you have another 10 seconds to get that 3% to proc, and it actually procs really quickly. So you get 16% attack power from this, and then we would look back at the original tier 9 set that you would have as well, right? And you would have a 2% increased crit chance or 6% armor pen, right? So you would get 2% crit free, and you would get the 16% attack power until you can get to the full tier 10 set. So getting Frost Emblems takes a while to get to tier 10, so you're not going to be able to get through that. So you're going to want to get your tier 9 set gearing up, and then as you're gaining Frost Emblems, you want to buy your tier 10 set. You're going to be wanting to buy the chest piece first, then the helmet, or vice versa, helmet then chest. Either way, they both give a ton of stats. Then depending on the class, you get your pants, your gloves, and your shoulders. The shoulders are usually bought by everybody. Not many classes have an offset piece that they would prefer to have. And then pants. Usually you would do chest and helmet for the Frost Emblems. You would do tier 9 set, the Emblems of Triumph you would do for shoulders and gloves. And then you would get the craftable blacksmithing pants. And then this would last you a very long time. So here I'll show you my tank set real quick. I got my 4-piece tier 10, but usually I would have shoulders and gloves from the tier 9 set, and I would get all this armor, and I would get this, and then I would have the 2 tier 9, 2 tier 10, and then I would have these, which are best in slot for tank, right? So this is best in slot for all tanks, by the way. The armor is just massive. But outside of that, long story short, you want to gear up doing that. You want to go from 4 set tier 9 to 2 set tier 9, 2 set tier 10 to 4 set tier 10. And you make that transition like that. And you usually want to do it with the biggest, most expensive pieces first instead of the cheaper ones, because the cheaper ones, while they do look like an upgrade, they're not as big of an upgrade. And you're breaking apart your 4 set bonus. So you see how I'm getting my 12% dodge when I use Divine Plea? That's on a 1-minute cooldown, so that's a big buff. And I mean, I know that's tier 10, but the tier 9 set 4 set bonus is actually pretty huge too. So you're always breaking apart those set bonuses to upgrade, and I highly recommend against just doing that for the sake of doing it when you're doing it for a shoulder or gloves upgrade, because they are significantly smaller in stats as an upgrade versus the shoulders or the helmet and the chest piece. So yeah, moving on. Now we're moving on to Icecrown Citadel Trash Bind-On-Equips and your Icecrown Citadel Reputation Ring and how to do your rings. So first off, warrior tanks will use this as a tank gun. This is also going to be a hunter gun for a significant while. It's really hard to replace this. Ring of Rotting Sinew, this is for most strength classes. Hit rating. It does have a hit rating. Eventually you'll be overcapping, so you'll want to switch. Like I have this and this. Then you have Harbinger's Bone Band. This is also a decent tank ring to start off with. Woden's Lucky Necklace lasts a while. I'm still using it here, and as you can see, I'm over 6k gear score. Belt of the Lonely Noble. It's actually a really strong belt. This is a 264 item level with a bunch of crit and haste. The spell power and the intellect are not optimal for Retri Paladins, but this is pre-raid best in slot for Ret Paladins, as you could put a third gem opening in this with the belt Eternal Belt Buckle. Also, anytime you're using a new belt, make sure to use Eternal Belt Buckle. It's a craftable blacksmithing thing that allows you to get a free gem slot, prismatic, so you could put any color gem in it with no worries about losing your socket bonus. Um, but yes, you get 3 sockets and you put 3 strength gems in this, and it gives you 60 strength. With the intellect, the spell power, crit haste, this is pre-raid best in slot for Red Paladin. But this is also really good for Holy Paladins as well and healers. Leggings of Dubious Charm is also really good for Resto Shamans. This is pretty good for Holy Paladins. It does not have haste, so this is not a great pair of pants, okay? There's a reason this is for dropped from trash mobs in Icecrown Citadel, and it's because it gives mana per 5 crit and no haste at all. All healers want haste. Haste gives you faster heals. Crit gives you stronger heals if you get lucky. You do not want to rely on RNG when it comes to healing and tanking. That's why avoidance stats are usually not good in tanks. But this is also why avoidance stats like crit are not useful on heals. I mean, they're useful because when you do get that big heal, like it saves you some mana. But yeah, moving on, you got the Stiffened Corpse shoulder pads. This is for clothies, mages and stuff, warlocks, priests. You can use this. This is really good for resto druids as well. Any healer that needs the spirit can use this. And overall, it's a big like stat upgrade at the very beginning once you hit level 80. And most of these drop from trash mobs in Icecrown Citadel. They're gonna run you a pretty penny, a few hundred gold, maybe maximum 1,000 or something, but not like 5,000, 10,000, nothing big because they don't drop off of bosses. There is no limit to how many times these can spawn. So if you're farming a reputation in Icecrown Citadel, you can spawn these, right? Moving on to reputation, we're going to go to the Ashen Verdict. This is inside Icecrown Citadel. Inside Icecrown Citadel, you just kill all the trash going up to and stopping at Marigar. You do not want to pull any bosses because you want to just continuously farm trash. And then we go from, where is the entry level? I feel like this is kind of wrong. Oh, no, 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 I'm dumb. Okay, sorry. So you have entry level. So this is the Ashen Band. Everyone gets this once they're friendly with the Ashen Verdict. So you go from friendly all the way up to exalted right here. So this is friendly, honored, revered, exalted, and with each upgrade you get more stuff, right? So from friendly to honored, you just get a stat upgrade. It's just a little bit stronger. You get some gold too. Then from honored to revered, this is an important upgrade. You get a 480 attack power, spell power, or like armor tank thing, and then you go all the way up to the maximum, and then you get a free gem slot. And every upgrade gives you more stats as well. So not only are you getting the stats, you're getting a proc, and then you're getting a gem socket, and then at the end you have all this on your ring, and this is a great thing. So each class has what they need. So strength classes have this, so they can get the hit rating. They can get spell power. Spell classes can get the hit rating, the haste, the proc as well. This is for DPS, this is for tank, this is for heal, this is for whatever. So you have a ring inside Icecrown Citadel. That's going to be your best in slot ring. Only requirement is time spent farming trash. You also get reputation from killing the bosses if you get tired and you're geared up enough, so you can work towards getting the exalted ring without it. Also, the tank ring is not good. The proc rate is terrible. The proc itself is horrible. It's RNG dependent. It's also just overall not a good ring because it has a longer cooldown. It's not very good in the sense that you have a high cooldown, low proc rate, short proc, and it's RNG, and you're tanking. You want flat stats, you don't want RNG. So that's why the Onyxia rings are better. So they're, the Onyxia ring and the Velithria 25-man heroic ring are better than that. But I mean, it is a good starting point if that's your only goal. If you're gonna play tank, usually this is what I do. Tanks have two different rings like these, and they don't go for the ICC ring because you can keep it for your other spec, which is going to be DPS or healer. That's what I do when I'm tanking. It's very much so more important to have that ring on your other spec than on the tank spec. And then that's for your rings, and we're gonna move on after this. All right. So covering the talents and the glyphs on Red Paladin. Here we're going to go with 5 in Benediction, 2 in Improved Judgments, 3 in Harder Crusader, 2 in improved blessing of might. If you're not taking improved blessing of might because the other red paladin in your core group has this, because you only need one paladin to provide the blessing of might improved buff, you'll be taking vindication, so you can passively apply a 550 attack power debuff on bosses. This is actually a very useful debuff. So the paladins should be using the combination of improved blessing of might versus this vindication. Then you also have conviction. You have Seal of Command, Pursuit of Justice, Crusade, Sanctity of Battle, Sanctified Retribution. You also have two-handed weapon specialty, Vengeance, Judgment of the Wise, Repentance, Art of War, Fanaticism, Sanctified Wrath. And by the way, when I'm saying these talents, I'm saying that you max them out. As you can see, there's no white, there's no blue in them. Like it would say 2 out of 3, it would be blue and stuff, but they're maxed out. Swift Retribution, Crusader Strike, Sheath of Light, Righteous Vengeance, and Divine Storm, followed by 5 points in Divine Strength. So there's also another way where you end up taking like some of these, and then you would grab the Divine Sacrifice and Divine Guardian. This would give you uh, Raid Sack. This is a skill where you reduce the damage of everybody in the raid. You would cancel the aura, so you're not taking all the damage from this, but you would cancel the aura, and it would still provide that 20% damage reduction to the entire raid. That's another way you would specialize your talents. There's not a guaranteed number one way, but most red paladins would optimize for aura mastery, which is what we're going to be doing here. It's 5 points in Seal of the Pure. This is an absolute mandatory effect. You get 15% increased damage on your Seal of Vengeance. Then you get the 10% intellect, sorry, and then you get the art mastery. So that's the talents. Then we're gonna move on to glyphs. You're gonna go with Glyph of Judgment, Glyph of Exorcism, and Glyph of the Seal of Vengeance. This is mandatory. This is also mandatory. This is like interchangeable with another glyph. I believe there's I don't know the exact name, but I'm not going to show it. Glyph of Blessing of Kings, Glyph of Laying of Hands, and Sense Undead. These are not too important, but the Sense Undead is actually extremely important. You're going to go up here, you're going to click on Sense Undead. It's going to show Undead, and that gives you a passive 1% DPS increase towards any undead target. What does this mean? You get 1% free DPS from a minor glyph, meaning there's an actual value added to the minor glyph because of this glyph. Or yeah, most of these are just like, oh, 50% reduced mana cost, it's utility, it's quality of life. This is an actual stat increase, and this is extremely important. Well, okay, maybe not extremely because it's 1%, but it's whatever, it's a stat boost. And then also Glyph of Laying on Hands. Lay on Hands is a big cooldown. Uh, Instantly heal somebody for the Paladin's health pool. If you have like 35,000 health because of 30% buff or something, it's a massive health boost. So those are the talents. Well, let's move on to the next thing. All right, now moving on, we're going to be covering the best in slot list. So this is going to be ignoring the idea of you getting Shadowmourne. Not every single player wants to spend 6, 9, 12 months in Icecrown Citadel farming for shards, hoping to have some luck and get a whole bunch of shards in a decent amount of time. So we're going to be assuming you don't get Shadowmourne, right? So the second best option will be, I don't have all the best in slot gear, but I will be pointing it out. We have Glorenzig. This is for your weapon. You kill the Lich King on 25-man heroic, and you can get Glorenzig on normal, it is not as good as Marigar Heroic. This weapon right here, Bryn Troll, is absolutely amazing for uh, Retribution Paladin. This procs off of like you've got like 50 different things that do damage. You do not need armor pen, so the only thing you're missing out on is a little bit of crit rating, like 100, 110 or so, from most of the items on like available to you. And this also benefits from Taj, which is the Professor Trinket that you're going to be hunting down. So this gives you more auto attacks all the time. This is your best in slot trinket as well. The more auto attacks, the better. So, you know, haste is a pretty good stat on Retribution Paladins. Is the more auto attacks you get, the more attacks in general of everything, it just gives you a higher chance to reset your Divine Storm. So you can spam this more and more. So you get Tiny Abomination in a jar, so you can reset your Divine Storm over and over. That helps you get the resets. You also get Bryn Troll. This has a very fast attack speed compared to other weapons. Shadowmourne has 3.7 attack speed. This has 3.4. So this is a really good weapon. I'm not gonna say like this is your starting weapon, by the way. So Shadowmourne is the end game, end all be all weapon. This is your starting weapon, and so that's why I'm pointing it out that this is such a good starting weapon for Retribution Paladins. So we have the Tiny Abomination in a jar as the best in slot for the trinket. Let's go to the other trinket that's going to be in Trial of the Crusader. This is going to be on 25-man heroic. On the fourth bosses, it's going to be the Twin Valkyr. So yes, you do have to kill the faction champions. They're very difficult. But once you kill them and you kill the Valkyries are a cakewalk, and then you can claim your prize of the Death's Choice heroic. It's going to be called Death's Verdict on the Alliance side. It gives you 510 strength plus 288 attack power. Now this is a very good trinket. Gives you a ton of strength. Very useful for Retribution Paladins, as you have a bunch of strength. So you have your 15% strength buff from the talents. Sorry. Plus the 10% from kings. And there's a whole bunch of like attack power, and so you got the true shot aura from the hunters, and then you got the strength buffs and stuff, and all of that just contributes to your overall damage increase. So your base stats themselves get like you get a bunch of attack power from strength, you get only critical hit from agility, the armor is negligible, the health from stamina, and then you get spell crit from intellect, which really isn't too important. So it's all between strength and agility. Agility is essentially critical hit chance, and strength is attack power. So you do more damage with the more strength you get. Death's Choice gives you more strength. That's why it's the best in slot. Then you also have the other ability, or the Tiny Abomination in a jar, because you need 8% hit chance. You don't have any hit rating from your talents, so it's very important that you have that hit rating from your trinket. You would have the hit rating from your boots from Ruby Sanctum. So the 3 hit rating items you would have is your Icecrown Citadel ring, the Tiny Abomination in a jar, and then the boots from Ruby Sanctum. So the Ruby Sanctum boots will be right here. Apocalypse is advanced. These are the highest level boots that you can get. The ring that you're going to be using, the second ring, is going to be, usually it's going to be Signet of the Twilights. It's attack power, agility, attack power, and crit. The agility items generally have more raw stats than the strength items, especially if you can use the crit. The crit and the attack, like it has attack power on it, plus it has like agility, which gives you crit, and then it also has crit itself. However, there is the 25-man gunship ring, Skeleton Lord Circle. If you're not using Heroic Glorenzig to give you the extra expertise, then you can use the Skeleton Lord Circle to get extra expertise. A lot of the best in slot gear is also very up for debate, as most of the best in slot lists are usually within like 50 gear score of each other, and it's all it's all spectacle. The cape from Gunship on Heroic is the best in slot cape. This is by far the best cape that you can get. Uh, it's arguable that there is the cape from Rotface. This is the other optional cape. This gives 68 crit and 60 haste. This is very useful. Then you have your tier 10 helmet, shoulders, chest, and tier 10 pants. These are all pretty much like mandatory best in slot. There's really no arguing against it because you need the expertise from your tier 10 pants. The chest, the helmet are also the best you can get, and the shoulders are also really good. So I mean, there's really no other good options for those. For the necklace, we usually go with Ruby Sanctum necklace because it's item level 284. Sorry, I kept saying 245, but it's item level 284. It is armor pen and crit, but it has the most strength on any necklace, and it has a gem socket. So it's pretty much the best like necklace that you can get. I think there's a necklace from not Blood Queen. Yeah, Blood Queen Lanathel. So the Blood Queen in ICC in the blood area, she gives a 277 necklace, but that necklace does not give critical hit. It gives expertise in armor pen. So your options are really only armor pen. It's trash. Arguably some people would like to use the Ankahar Onyx neck guard, but this one also has a blue socket, so you lose out on a socket bonus, and then it gives hit rating. And because we're already using a hit rating trinket, the hit rating from the Ruby Sanctum boots and the ring, we're usually going to be over hit capped or very close to the hit cap. So if we use this necklace, we're wasting out on the hit rating, right? Um, so let's move on. We already have our chests. These are all covered. This is covered. Actually, no, the gloves are not covered. So let's move on to the gloves. You're gonna go and kill Festergut right here, and it gives you strength gloves, strength and critical hit and haste. These are all the primary stats of the Retribution Paladin. There is an alternative option from Valithria Dreamwalker, a Nubar Stalker gloves. These are also best in slot, although it gives agility, crit, haste. So you get the agility instead of the strength. You get the attack power here. But you got to remember, please don't forget that you need a certain amount of strength before you want to go and take all this crit, right? If you're just taking all these agility items, then your agility is going to give you crit, but your crit is not going to do anything because you're hitting like a wet noodle anyways. So what's double of a wet noodle? It's two wet noodles. Two wet noodles does not beat one strong pipe in combat. So make sure to balance out how much agility gear and how much strength gear that you have. One of the reasons this character is kind of weaker right now is because it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, 4. It has 5 agility pieces, right? So the 5 agility pieces is making it weaker than, say, if I had only 3 agility pieces, right? And then let's move on to the last item. The last item is still in Ruby Sanctum as well. You're going to be using pretty much all the gear from Ruby Sanctum because it's going to be the best gear that you can get. And all the stats from the gear is, it's the overall, it's the pinnacle, it's the best. So the Umbrage armbands are going to be your 284 bracers. These are heroic. They give you attack power, crit, haste, and the agility. So they give you a bunch of crit, which makes for a very good pair of bracers. And so in the end, you want you want the agility bracers, the agility cape, and this would be the pair of strength gloves. And so the only 3 items is the ring, the cape, and the these are bracers, right? Yeah, the bracers are all best in slot agility pieces, right? There's no arguing that those are the best. That's like, it's never up for debate because you have 3 pieces of agility gear that help you give you the attack power and the crit and the agility that gives you even more crit so you can do the most damage. I would say that you can arguably, and you probably would, go with 5 pieces of agility or 4. So you would take these instead if you had Shadowmourne, because Shadowmourne gives you a ton of strength. So getting crit on that strength is also pretty good. But it really is the battle of RNG versus, you know, straight damage, and, you know, if you get lucky and whatnot. But yeah, so those are your options. I've already covered everything here. Let's go to Libram. It's the Libram of three truths. It's every time you hit Crusader Strike up to 5 times, you get 44 strength. So that's 44 times 5, up to about 210 strength, I think. No, 220. Sorry. So this Libram gives you a constant stacking buff of 220 strength, and then, like I said, Heroic Lorenzig or Shadowmourne. So that covers all of your gear, but moving on to the enchants, I do want to cover the enchants. I don't have gems or enchants on it. I guess I just upgraded this. I haven't played on the server for a while, so sorry. The shoulders, you're gonna put a 40 attack power and 15 critical hit rating. Enchant from the Sons of Hodir quest line. You're going to put that enchant on your shoulders. You're going to use gem straight strength and everything. 23 haste on the cape, 10 stats in the chest. Make sure you're using a nightmare tier to activate your metagem. 20 strength in your chest piece. Then you have just strength gems in your bracers, so you're still gemming strength. I think I used strength in something else somewhere. Uh, Okay, yeah, so you can use strength and haste or strength and crit sometimes, as like for your orange sockets to get the meta gem bonus, not meta gem, the prismatic gem bonus, or whatever it is. So 40 attack power, 23 haste, 10 stats, 50 attack power, 44 attack power, eternal belt buckle, 75 attack power, 22 critical strike rating. That's a leatherworking enchant I'll show you in a second. 12 hit rating, 12 critical strike for the boots. And then berserking on the weapon. So crafting, we're going to go to leatherworking and show you the where is it? Item enhancements. Right here. Yeah, ice scale leg armor. These are going to be expensive usually. They're almost always expensive. These cost a whole bunch, but they are a really good upgrade. If you have some mediocre pants that you're not going to want to upgrade, then go ahead and buy a Nerubian one while you're using those, but make sure to get the ice scale on anything that's like tier 9, tier 9, tier 10, or the like, you know. It's okay to upgrade, and if you spend 500 gold, 1,000 gold, and then you get an upgrade in a raid, you had no idea you were gonna get that upgrade in that raid, so just be happy you got that upgrade in the raid instead of being mad that you wasted your gold, right? Because you didn't waste your gold, you spent the gold, got an upgrade, and then spent more gold, right? It's better to get that upgrade now rather than later. So yep, that's all your enchants, your gems, and your gear. Let's move on to the next subject. Okay, so now we are going to be covering the rotation and how to play the class, essentially. So what I'm going to be showing you is all the skills that you're going to be using, how you're going to play your class. Say you're going to be going through the raids and whatnot. You just bought this character. You have no clue where to start, right? Whatever you got going on. First off, we have all of our buffs and stuff. So we've got Redemption, that's our resurrection skill. If you do not have this skill, you need to go see your class trainer inside one of the capital cities, Silver Moon or something, and you can go train it through doing a quest line. It's quite a short quest line, and you'll need resurrection. Essentially, it's just being able to resurrect people. Righteous Fury. This is a permanent active buff that increases the threat that you do from all your holy spells by 80%. It's quite massive. Then you got Greater Blessing of Might, Wisdom, Kings, Corruption, or Seal of Corruption and Seal of Command. These two are your two seals. These are your three buffs. If you're in a raid and someone's like, you do Might, you do Kings, you do Wisdom, that's your responsibility. You buff everybody in the raid with these three buffs, depending on which one. You cannot buff each of them yourself, so you need 3 paladins to buff each individually. Also, if you do not take the improved Blessing of Might because some other paladin has it, that'll be their responsibility to buff Might, so you can just go ahead and do Kings. A Holy Paladin will typically take Improved Blessing of Wisdom, giving 20% more effectiveness on the Wisdom buff, so you wouldn't do that, so you would still be left with Kings, right? This is the default that you would go to as you're following the guide right here with the same talents, and you're not taking Vindication. You're going to be taking Improved Blessing of Might. You'll be buffing Blessing of Might, so let's say we'll buff that. Yes, I don't care, I clicked it. Move on to the next thing. We have our 2 buffs. We have our seal active. We have our blessing active. We have a whole bunch of stuff on top, but assuming you're a Retri Paladin, you do not want to be using the... So if you have a tank in your group or a healer and they take Divinity, they're going to have 5 points in this. That increases the healing that's done by the Judgment, by the Judgment of Light. So you should not be using Judgment of Light as a Retribution Paladin. You should be using Judgment of Wisdom. So you can have multiple judgments active at once, right? Only 1 judgment per paladin can be active, but you can have multiple judgments, like 3, 4, like whatever, however many are in the game. If you have that many paladins, you can use it, right? To start off with, if you're just soloing, you're running around in the world, open world, you can use Taunt to do damage. It only does damage if the target is not attacking you, because this is an NPC. It's like a training dummy. You can't do that. Judgment of Wisdom is your first skill. This is your very basic skill. You have Divine Storm. This is your AoE cleave, your final talent as well, so you don't get this until much later. But you activate it, and then you do damage, and with tier 10, you can reset it, right? You see how it just reset? That's from your tier 10 set. You also get big damage on Judgment from your tier 10 set, but that's besides the point. So this is your cleave. This is also your AoE. So anytime you're doing AoE, you're going to use Divine Storm, Concentration. If you're doing AoE with undeads or demons, you can use Holy Wrath, and that'll do damage. These are not undead. These are just normal stationary targets. Drop them. You have a skill called Crusader Strike. This is a basic 93% weapon damage attack every 4 seconds. All this is pretty much you get a second auto attack, right? Then we got Exorcism. Now check this out. It takes absolutely forever. This is a terrible skill on its own. So let's do damage. Oh, the Art of War proc. Right here, the Art of War. What are we going to do? We use Exorcism. It becomes an instant cast. It's very, very useful skill to have as an instant cast. What Art of War also does is it gives you the ability to cast Flash of Light. So if you're dying, so normally I have this on 1, but if you're in a raid and you're doing this, boom, you can heal yourself. Oh, I need to heal myself some more. Like, let's say you're taking damage, you have a mark from Sarfang, you get Art of War procs, just keep using it to heal yourself. There's nothing wrong with using your procs to heal yourself. It's an instant cast. You have more beneficial things that help you. So, you know, you're using 1 global cooldown to give healing. You can heal another teammate target. You do 5k with that, boom, easy peasy. Like, you're actually able to throw out a lot of healing as a Retri Paladin. Now, obviously, your goal and your job is to do DPS, so you're not worried about that, but it's a really useful tool. And if you're a good Retri Paladin, you can do that. Now, to follow this up with, we have our basic rotation of the Judgments, Divine Storm, Crusader Strike, Exorcism, and Consecration. You should use it in this order too. Assuming you're doing single target, you pop the Judgment, you do your Divine Storm, Crusader Strike. Then you go here, you drop the Art of War proc on the Exorcism. You keep using Crusader Strike and Judgments and stuff, and then you would use Consecration as a last ability. So everything else over here is on cooldown. You drop the Consecration, right? It's a good cooldown, but it's not that great, you know. Anytime you're low, you use your Judgment. You want to use your Judgment off cooldown. It's pretty much your best skill, and you just keep that up. Now to follow up, we have Hammer of Wrath. Anytime a target is... So this is a training dummy, I can't do Hammer of Wrath. Anytime a target is under 20% health, you can execute them with Hammer of Wrath, essentially. Holy Wrath is your area of effect, like stun. and damage on undead and demon targets. This is not good for single target, but if you're gonna stun all the beasts on um Deathbringer Sarfang, I think. Wait, are they labeled demons? I'm not sure. Regardless, you could stun a whole bunch of undead monsters like on Volithria and stuff. You have a cleanse, so you can have cleanse available. Anytime you get hit with something that you can cleanse, then you also have Hammer of Justice. Now this is not on such a short cooldown like tanks, but you can still drop it. Boom, it's stunned for like 6 seconds. It's a really powerful stun. So you got the Hammer of Justice. Yeah, 6 second stun with 3 second spellcasting interruption. Then when you're pulling a boss, you would use something like Aura Mastery and Avenging Wrath. So Avenging Wrath gives you 20% DPS boost for 20 seconds. It's essentially something like the Death Wish for Fury Warriors. And then Aura Mastery. This also gives you just better auras, right? You activate both of these and you just go in, boom, bada bing, bada boom, boom. Make sure to use Divine Storm before Crusader Strike, as it has the ability to be reset by Crusader Strike. Some would argue that you would use Crusader Strike first as a guaranteed damage. And I can't say that they're wrong. They're probably right. I haven't done the min-maxing, so I don't know exactly, but I do know that it's quite valuable to use both. But, yep. So that's your rotation. Your skills, drop this on anything that can be stunned. You have Divine Plea, you run out of mana completely, drop the Divine Plea. You're always going to be a Blood Elf because only Blood Elves can be the class for Paladins. So you drop the Arcane Torrent, it gives you a bunch of mana back, silences targets around you. You have Bubble, you have Divine Protection, you have Lay on Hands. These three are your big PP cooldowns. So let's say you're taking too much damage in a raid. Using Divine Protection will reduce all the damage you take by 50%. You will continue doing the same amount of damage, and this is a no drawback ability. This is your bubble. It reduces all the damage you do by 50%, but it also gives you immunity to everything. This is like the end all be all. And then Lay on Hands instantly gives you all the health and a whole bunch of mana. So see, boom, I got everything back, and now I have Forbearance, so I got all that. Use Divine Plea. You get reduced healing from Holy Light, Flash of Light, and Holy Shock, but as you're not a healer, you don't have to worry about that. So this is just a free 25% mana cooldown every minute. So every minute you get 25% of your mana, right? Over 15 seconds. Very useful cooldown. I don't think I have anything. Oh, and then when you're doing AoE or you need to cleave on cleaving fights, you would use the Seal of Command. This is the seal that you would take here, and what this does is it does damage to 2 targets near, right? So boom, you see how they're all taking a whole lot of damage, tons of damage. Now I can't say that my character is the best geared and whatnot, like it's 6K. I've got a Lich King weapon, but I got a whole bunch of like agility gear, and my tier sets aren't upgraded, so it is what it is, but that's the rotation. That's how you would play it. There's also a few things you can have. You can have the Seal of Wisdom. If you ever need to like gain mana, you use Seal of Wisdom. You just auto attack a bunch and you get your mana back. You have Divine Plea, so you shouldn't run out. But you know things happen. I guess I don't know what could cause you to want to use Seal of Wisdom. And then you also have Seal of Light. If you're tanking, you can use Seal of Light and you can get health back every time you auto attack instead. And then most of this other stuff is just extra. So that's that. Let me see if there's anything interesting in the inventory. Okay, so you would use Flask of Endless Rage. This is important for DPSing. You would use the Endless Rage Flask, and then you would use some potions, especially from Alchemy, the Haste Potion. So Potion of Speed, you would use this during Avenging Wrath, so you can get a lot more DPS output during your 15 seconds of burst, or 20 seconds. It's 20 seconds of burst, but 15 seconds with Potion. So I'm going to call it 15 seconds of burst. And then also, if you have engineering, you get the 340 haste for 12 seconds on your gloves. That will give you 840 haste during your Avenging Wrath. So you would have 12 seconds of just like having massive haste, and all your abilities just go pew, 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 and everything goes crazy, right? So take that into account if you're going to take engineering. Engineering would be the best profession, and then the second profession would be pretty much anything, as they all give the same boosts. Mining only gives health though, so take that into account when you're doing DPS. Um, so yeah, that's how you play the rotation. That's all the skills and abilities that I'll be covering. Okay, so now we are going to be discussing. My apologies. Let's check on it. We're going to be discussing useful alternatives to your best in slot gear, gear that's like pre-best in slot, gear that'll help you get to your best in slot, gear that you can be on the lookout and use while gearing up to get best in slot, because a lot of the gear that you're going to get is not going to be best in slot, because, you know, best in slot is best in slot for a reason, right? This cape from Marigar, we're going to take it off. Let's assume that you just got your stuff together and you're doing ICC 10 normal with a few of your boys from your guild. You want to be on the lookout for the cape from Marigar. There's also the Citadel Enforcer, the two-handed sword. This is the very first weapon that you might get in Icecrown Citadel. This is a very big upgrade from the Tyrannical Beheader from Pit of Sauron, right? So there's that. Whispering Fang Skull, big upgrade, big upgrade. This is a crit, 131 crit and 1100 attack power. Proc, it lasts 15 seconds, and so instead of lasting 10 seconds, it lasts 15 seconds, right? And it's 1100 instead of 1000 attack power. So it's a ton of it's a ton of critical hit, and it's a ton of attack power, and it all combines together to give you a very good trinket that I'm still using right there. And then Dust Choices from Child of the Crusader. So those are the items from ICC. Then you're gonna look at let me see. It was no, it wasn't on this boss. Sorry. Serenite Gargoyle cloak. You want to get this on Heroic. Gunship is free loot on Heroic, and the Serenite Gargoyle cloak is an easy to get free cape that has a gem socket. So you get 38 crit, 69 haste, a bunch of strength. It's a very nice cloak, very good weapon, or very good cloak. Then also the bracers aren't too bad. The shoulders are mediocre, but you can use them. And moving on, you have Ramaladni Ding Dong. I like to call this because this is Ramaladni's Blade of the Calling. I call it Ramaladna Ding Dong. So we're gonna have Ramaladna Ding Dong. Even on normal, this is a good axe and a solid alternative to the Citadel Enforcer that I just spoke of. It's a pretty good like starting weapon. This is so pretty much any weapon in ICC is better than a weapon that's not in ICC, right? Uh, the funny thing about it. But the rings, some of these gear, it's all pretty decent, but this especially. So the big pointers from the first four bosses: cape, weapon, trinket, cloak, and weapon. Right? Those are the first four bosses. Then we're gonna go and point out Valithria Dreamwalker. That's the healing dragon. You're gonna want to try to get Oxheart, the two-handed mace that gives you pretty much 750 to 1125 weapon damage. It has 2 gem sockets and it's critical hit and expertise. If you can get this done on heroic, because it's really not too hard of a boss fight, if you do this on heroic, it's an easy 264 item level weapon. It's on par with Shadow's Edge. I think Shadow's Edge is still a little bit better, but the stats on this are better than Shadow's Edge. So the only difference is the weapon damage not being as high, right? So there's that. Still, a lot of this is like pretty decent. I think Taiga's Bindings. If you do this on heroic, you can get bracers that are really freaking good. Then let's go back to Rodface and Festergut. These guys have some decent gear. Festering finger guards can be useful depending on how you're gearing up. You've got some decent items, but nothing really stands out from most of these bosses. I think these shoulders are pretty decent. And oh, yeah. So the infected choker, I'm not gonna say. So I was gonna say on heroic it's really good. It is really good on heroic, but even on normal, this is better than Blood Queen's or not Blood Queen, Woden's Lucky Necklace. So this is a trash drop that you can buy off the auction house, right? Woden's Lucky Necklace is a great item, but pendant or damn it, I keep looking at the wrong thing. Infected choker is uh is a great necklace because it gives you expertise, crit, both things you want, and it gives you a bunch of strength. And it's an alternative to another agility item that you're sitting on top of, right? So I would say it's an upgrade from Woden's. It gives you better stat itemization and lets you move on from that. Uh, if you don't have any of these items, there's also Herseer's great spear. It has decent weapon damage and attack power with agility. It doesn't have strength, so it's another agility item you have to rely on. But the weapon damage is by far massively better than having a weak like tyrannical beheader from Pit of Sauron. Then you got the ring right here. The ring is also really amazing. If you could do this on heroic, then you got a very strong crit haste ring. And I would say this is like best in slot if it was one tier higher. Like if this dropped in 25 man, it would be item level 277. It would be best in slot. So this is like Priebus, right? No, there's really not much that can beat this except like the best in slot gear. It's a very nice ring. Even on 10 man, like right here, it still beats out where is it? Ring of Rotting Sinew. I might have it on my inventory. This one? Yeah. So this is a trash BOE that you can buy off of the auction house as well. You would be using Ring of Rotting Sinew, and you would be using Ashen Band of Endless Might. You would be using both of those, and then you would replace the Ring of Rotting Sinew with this because you have too much hit rating at that point, right? Let me see. The necklace right here, critical hit and haste rating. This is even better than the Professor Putricide necklace because it gives critical hit and haste, both of which are the best stats for you as a Retri Paladin instead of expertise. Assuming that you're expertise capped, of course. But the stats on this are better. So even if you are expertise, like if you're gemming for expertise, then you could take this and then, spend more gems instead because the stats are better. Don't forget Oxheart, and then moving on to Sindragosa and the Lich King, the last two bosses in 10 man. Uh, there is the necklace, which is decent, but most of the stuff from Sindragosa is really kind of bogus. But the belt is actually really nice. The crit and expertise belt is very good because you might be missing that expertise, but it gives a ton of crit, 76 crit. And imagine if it's on 25 or not 25, 10 man heroic. If it's on heroic, it gives a lot of crit and 54 expertise. So assuming you bought the Frost Emblem belt, it gives more critical hit than the Frost Emblem belt, you see? And it gives the same amount of strength, but it gives expertise instead of hit rating. So you're not over hit capping. And then from the Lich King, most of the Lich King gear is really nice, but you want to be going for the War Mace Menethel. This is crit and armor pen. It's not amazing compared to everything, but it's still an upgrade. It has higher weapon damage. Still very nice, but previous bosses on heroic, like Oxheart heroic, you see right here, this is better than that mace from Lich King. So doing Velithria on heroic is more beneficial to you than doing Lich King on normal. Then you have where is it? Where is it? There should be like a pole arm, or maybe that's just 25 men. Yeah, that's just 25 men. Wait, Hellion? No. Yeah. So I was looking at 25 men. Yeah. Uh, it is. Why can't I find it? Yeah, Oathbinder. This is one of the best in slot, quote unquote, best in slot weapons for Retribution Paladins. They like to use it, but I'm not a big fan. I prefer Glorenzig or Shadowmourne. The armor pen on this is also, you know, it's mediocre as well. But yeah, so those are the items from ICC, and then TLC. You know, this is gonna be just some gear that you would be looking out for. TLC 10 man I put on par with dungeon gear, so I'm not gonna point out any of that. And then Trial of the Grand Crusader is just as hard as 25 man Icecrown Citadel. So if you can get gear from Trial of the Grand Crusader, it might help you out. But I'm not gonna talk about 25 man heroic. Um, there's a whole lot of gear here that will help you gear up the bracers here. There's a lot of crit expertise gear. Then you have this Bind-On-Equip cape. We have a, where is it? There's a Bind-On-Equip necklace. Right here. No, that's right here. The Executioner's Vice is a pretty decent necklace. Lasts a while. Death's Choice, like I told you previously, if you can get this on normal, it's just as good. You can use Death's Choice on normal and then Death's Choice on heroic. And that's pretty much the best in slot combination until you can get Taj 25 man heroic or 25 man normal. Arguably, Death's Choice normal is better than Taj normal, but that's very arguable and it's a very close fight. So, I mean, Double Skull is definitely a great way to go when gearing up. And then, you know, there's still a bunch of extra, like, good loot here that you can go and grab. But yeah. Dual Blade Butcher is the weapon that you're going for in Trial of the Crusader. It's pretty much on par with an Icecrown Citadel 10-man. So you'll be running Icecrown Citadel 10-man and TOC 25-man for a decent two-handed weapon like this. Just like all of those weapons I told you about a second ago, like 5 minutes ago in ICC 10, you would be grabbing this in 25-man TOC. And then obviously if you can get something out of ICC 25, that's amazing, and then you'll be able to go even further and get into better groups. Because you already have Icecrown Citadel 25-man gear, but until then, you know, you're stuck trying to get 10-man and 25-man loot from this, right? And then Anubarak also has some decent stuff. There's a pole arm right here that you can use, so you're not limited to axes. You can use the pole arm here, another weapon, so another chance of getting a weapon. There's some gear here. There's a strength cape right here that has hit ratings, so that's also very useful. And yeah, so that covers pretty much all the gear that you can use. If you're in Naxx or Ulduar during the time of this video and you're like trying to gear up through those, I'm not going to be covering those because this is an end game patch. There's special guides for those that you can find. But yeah, let's move on to the next part of the video. All right, so that covers all of it, and I'm pretty sure I covered everything that has to do with Retribution Paladins. All the gear and everything, all the way from the beginning to the end, getting best in slot and whatnot. If you want to learn about the Shadowmourne, how to get Shadowmourne, I'm probably going to do that in a future video. I've got tactics guides that's probably going to show up at the end of the video right here. I've got other class guides in my channel. And if you liked the video, remember to hit that like button, smash that like button actually, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you get all the notifications. And yeah, keep following my channel to see more class guides. You're definitely going to want to stick around if you're trying to learn other characters and classes. Thank you, and as always, don't forget to smile.